goodness me, what a shot!
Zoltán setter den! Han setter den! Vi i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone and welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour. It's Chris with you for this week's podcast, and our focus today is on the shocking news that came out last weekend of Jim Gottfridsson's termination of his contract with Szeged. Jim Gottfridsson, legend of the Swedish national team, hero when they won the European Championship just 4 years ago, left Flensburg over the summer for Szeged, but just over half a season into his 3-year contract, it was, in his words, unilaterally terminated and done without any justification or prior consultation, and in great violation of the written and unwritten rules of the sport of handball. That will be the focus of our podcast today. We're going to get both Swedish and Hungarian perspectives on this one. Later on in the show, we're going to hear from Hungarian journalist, Nemzeti sport writer Zoltán Szendrei. He'll give us a bit of an insight into the mood over in Hungary. Before that, we'll speak to Ola Selby from Handbollskanalen to get the Swedish point of view on this. And all of this shrouded in a lot of mystery as well. Not too many official words coming from either side. There was a statement from Jim Gottfridsson, which I quoted there, in which he expresses disappointment at saying it can't even be put into words, and that he cannot imagine that a club of such prestige would do such a thing, considering it to be unlawful. That feels like something that's going to roll on for a while, but we'll get the first impressions from Zoltan and from Ola, the club on their part coming out and saying that what they have done was legal and haven't shared much beyond that. Incredible stuff, considering as well the great results that Szeged had just last week in the Champions League playoff round, beating Kielce and booking a quarter-final spot. So that'll be our focus for today's pod, and next week we'll be chatting a little bit Bundesliga and Women's Champions League. Big weekends on that side coming. The Women's Champions League quarterfinals first leg taking place over the weekend. If you want to hear our preview on that, you go back to our previous podcast and our chat with Daniela Vekic. We look forward to all 4 quarterfinals there. And in the German league, it's the German Cup Final Four weekend in Cologne. A lot to look forward to there on Saturday and Sunday. I'll be commentating on the second semi-final and the final on HBL TV, and we'll look back at that at the beginning of next week and at the Bundesliga in general as well. So lots to look forward to here on the podcast and on our Patreon, patreon.com/handball hour for a bonus podcast next week. But let's focus now on the tale of Jim Gottfridsson and the state of things in Szeged and Veszprém. As I said, we'll hear from Nemzeti Sports' Zoltán Szendrei. But first, we'll hear from Ola Selby from Handbollskanalen. Joining us to speak about the Jim Gottfridsson saga is Ola Selby, the editor-in-chief of Handbollskanalen and Go Handball. Ola, lovely to have you back on. We're going to hear the the broader Hungarian point of view a little bit later in the show, but we're going for the passion, the Swedish heartbreak side of the story first, with Jim Gottfridsson having I guess in the international scene, a bit of a rare sharing of emotion and his disappointment of his contract suddenly being torn apart at Szeged. What do you make of the situation, and what have you picked up over the last few days about it all?
I mean, first of all, I, like probably a lot of other people, feel bad for him because, I mean, I spoke to him during the Euros in January, and it seemed to me that he really enjoyed himself in Hungary and his family as well. So that's the main thing, that I feel bad for him. I guess he's not feeling that great at the moment, and of course it adds to it that he has a family, 2 kids, and I mean all of that. They were planning to live in Hungary for 3 years, and now they have to do something else. So that part I feel bad for him. Then I mean, I think we can all agree that it's not the same Jim Gottfridsson playing wise as it was a few years ago, but still for Szeged to do it like this, I feel. I mean, it's unworthy, I think.
Yeah, I fully understand that. I mean, it came as a bit of a shock. Like last week on the podcast, Alex and I were wondering aloud what the situation was with Jim and why he wasn't with the squad. Maybe considering an injury issue or something like that, because that has been the case for him in recent times. But then this news just dropped over the weekend, really suddenly. What do you think the reaction has been overall in Sweden, like among the handball community, from comments on the Handbollskanalen side and other editorial pieces?
I think that a lot of people share my sentiment that they feel bad for him because he is still. I mean, he and Andreas Palicka, they are still the most popular players in Sweden. So on the men's side, I should say. So when it's something about them, all people always get very engaged, I would say. So that's one thing. I mean, a lot of people just trying to support him, I would say. Then I guess people in Sweden were definitely shocked as well about this happening, even though we knew, or some of us knew, that he hadn't played for a while, but still shocked that they would do this at this point in time. But I mean, I guess I'm still a little bit shocked about it because, like I said, even though he's not the same player anymore, just giving him, what is it? I mean, just a little bit over 6 months after not playing so much in Flensburg for the past year, 1.5 years. I mean, it's not the very most patient move.
And that's something we've seen a fair bit from Hungary over the years, with maybe a little bit less on the Szeged side. If we think about it, maybe more Veszprém or the side we've associated with that impatience when it comes to players and coaches, and even the recent warning that was given to the Veszprém players. But this, a very drastic move, and one which I'm guessing will draw out on the legal side at some point. I guess no real details have come out about exactly what has been in the contract and whether something like this was maybe in the fine print that someone didn't notice. I guess that we can only speculate on at some point. But you wrote a really interesting editorial on Handbollskanalen about how something like this can happen in handball, and with the general trend of players being announced ahead of time, contract being ripped up like this. In a way, it's of an older time, a bit more like handball from 10 years ago, maybe, and it's time to move away from that as a sport.
Yeah, I mean, they, like you said, they signed him long in advance. I think it was like 1.5 years before moving to Hungary, and they knew about his situation in Flensburg before he moved to Hungary. That, I mean, he had a falling out with Krikau and he didn't play as much as he used to. His role got smaller and smaller, never played in defense. And that was a huge part of his game. Not defense, not the defensive part, but I mean, we're being on the field, always being on the field, basically. That's what he needed for in order to perform. And they gave him very little time to perform now in Hungary, I believe. So, I mean, you can sign a player over a year in advance, watch him lose rhythm in his club, and then expect instant impact. I mean, I don't really understand that part about it. So lack of patience, poor planning. I don't know. It's got to be something else than just his form or lack of form during these months during the season.
The really interesting kind of subplot to all of this is the fact that his head coach at Szeged is also his head coach for the national team in Mikael Appelgren. Have you heard any murmurings about, either on or off the record, or from Mikael Appelgren and what he thinks?
Completely silent from him. He is usually a guy that, I mean, if he doesn't respond immediately when you call him or text him, he always gets back to you the same day, often within the hour. I mean, I spoke to him when he just moved to Hungary, taken over Szeged. He he acted as an expert in one of our articles ahead of the Handbollsliga season, the domestic league in Sweden. And I mean, he took his time. We spoke for like an hour. So he's normally a guy that handles media quite well, but here it's been complete silence. And from what I have understood, it's the same with everyone that's been trying to get in contact with him. But I have heard that Jim, of course, is disappointed, and one of the persons he is disappointed at is Appelgren. And that wouldn't, I mean, I haven't heard this from Jim, but I've heard it from other people that he feels like Appelgren should have stood up for him more than he did. And I mean, it's a very complicated position, but from a player's perspective, the fact that you would probably expect your coach to back you. Then I don't know how much he has backed Gottfridsson or not, but I don't know if what Gottfridsson means is that he wants Appelgren to support him publicly or in person towards the club. I don't know, but perhaps Appelgren is afraid of losing his job as well, because I mean their season haven't been the perfect season. So
yeah, it's a very new situation, you'd imagine, for Appelgren as a head coach in Hungary for such a expectant club as well. Things maybe not going the way that they would have wanted, and maybe that in having some influence on his influence, taking away maybe some of his power in this situation, maybe having to play it a little bit safer in order to take care of things, which you would understand in a way, but at the same time, is a tough kind of test of his character as well. And, it's interesting seeing someone who's a head coach of a club team and the national team, two players who he's had with the club team have, in Tobias Thullin's case, he's kind of fallen down the pecking order of the national team. And Jim Gottfridsson, we saw that maybe a little bit expectedly at the European Championship as well, showing that it's really not an easy thing to have to try and balance that when you have to see these guys day in, day out on the training court for your club.
And I mean, next season, Lucas Sandell is moving to Szeged as well. So we'll see what happens with him, considering what's happened to the other guys. I mean, and there's another player. I mean, he's not been in the national team, but William Bogojevic, he moved to Szeged after having a couple of great seasons in the Danish league. But I mean, he played like 3 minutes for half a season, and then he was loaned out to Leipzig, and he's still in Leipzig or at Leipzig. So not a good place for Swedish players, I guess. But at least, they extended Johan Kjellman's contract as an assistant coach, I read a couple of days ago. So at least it's going well for someone.
Yeah, well, he's the absolute club legend there. So he shows that it can be done. But what do you think now for Jim? He's 33 years of age. There's been a lot of discussion about him on our podcast, and I think in the handball world in general, about how, the handball world has maybe moved in a direction that doesn't necessarily suit his style of play. I mean, he still has the ability to do things. We've seen in the Champions League, we've seen in the Euro, when he gets the chance and when he's at full fitness, he's able to produce. What do you feel is the next move for him that would make sense for his career?
Oof, that's a tough one. I mean, considering if I'm trying to think about how Jim probably is thinking, I would say that he wants to play in the Champions League. He wants to have a big role. And I can't really see at the moment which club that would be, because I mean, he's not the same player as he was, and handball has changed since his best seasons. So, but I mean, he could still contribute to a big team, but it's hard to see him getting back to that level where he is the number one option as playmaker. So, I mean, there's been talks about him moving back home to Ystad and playing for his hometown club, but it feels a bit early, at least from his point of view. I can't really see him moving back home already. But I mean, they would of course welcome him with open arms. But it's tough to say. I mean, Flensburg, they don't really have any room for him, so it wouldn't be I can't see him moving back there, and I can't really see him playing anywhere else in Germany. So it's Denmark. Would there be a club? But I can't. I mean, which club would that be ready to pay him?
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. I can't really, not at the moment, see a clear pathway for him to play where he wants to play. So
It's a bit of that limbo, right?
Yeah.
With him now that this contract has been torn apart. I heard straight after, and I think I wrote to you about it. Straight after this news came out, Flensburg were playing in the Bundesliga, and Lubomir Vranjes was asked about it, and he said it in the nicest way possible. Like, yes, we've talked, but we don't have any room for him.
Yeah.
That's room in the wage budget, room in terms of the size of the personality and what he expects. Because you wouldn't imagine that he wanted to go to a club where he's going to be the number 2 or playing for a few minutes here and there. Maybe that has also been part of the issue with Szeged, with the emergence of that Kukic Smárason duo that has worked so well.
And I mean, him at least with Swedish media, he often speaks about the fact that he needs to play. And I mean, every player would say that they want to play at least 40-45 minutes a game. But in his case, I kind of believe him that he needs that in order to understand the defense, and with his little tricks. I mean, his mind is still one of the top minds in handball, I would say. So, but so that's a tricky part as well. I guess there would be perhaps some Champions League club that would be willing to sign him, but then it will be for like 10-15 minutes a game. Yeah. And he's not at his best for 10-15 minutes at a game. And with his current form, he can't carry a team for 40-45 minutes either. So it's like you said, there's a limbo. So it's a really tough situation for him.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting project in Serbia that's popped up now. Maybe maybe he's going to go further east and join the Partizan group, where they seem to be signing some interesting players. But we'll keep an eye out for that. Just one more thing before we let you go. It seems to be a big transitional phase in Swedish national team handball. We've spoken about this a little bit on both the men's and women's side. There was a couple of big farewells over the weekend for the Swedish women's national team in Yamina Roberts and Natalie Hagman hanging up their shoes for the national team. What are your feelings about that, and the build up for a European Championship with this team? Is there some painful years to come?
Yeah, there is definitely. I would say that's the short answer. Yeah. I mean, Hagman, like everyone knows, she's a goal scorer, and I guess they could find a better defensive wing on that side. That's no problem. I mean, that's not where she's had her biggest strengths, but scoring the amount of goals she's done for such a long time, that would be hard to replace. Of course, she's one of the best goal scorers of all time in Swedish handball. So, but Yamina will be the trickiest part, even though she's not as good as she was a couple of years ago. But at her position, her role in the team, what she means to the other players, all the things she does that perhaps we don't always see, even though she doesn't always score like 8 or 10 goals anymore. That will be tough. And I can't really see which player or players that will, fill that role at the moment. But then again, when Guldén stopped playing, it was Yamina who stepped up as the leading player for Sweden. So perhaps there is someone who will do it, fill her shoes. But I would guess that it will be a tough couple of years. And Anna Lagerqvist, even though she hasn't played that much for the last couple of years, she has stopped playing the national team as well. And Lynn Blom is injured for a long time. So lots of experience. Then again, I think they would, Thomas Axner, the coach, has spoken about it, that they would probably want to do to get some new younger players in there anyways, but perhaps he would have wanted Yamina and Hagman to stay on. But
Yeah, big transition, it seems, on the way there,
Definitely.
which will be interesting to keep an eye on. Maybe it's the best way for them. And we've seen players like that maybe continuing to play, even if they maybe didn't want to be the ones carrying the team. Also in the men's side as well, and Gottfridsson is maybe an
Yeah,
interesting example of that as well. So maybe forced transition on both sides now in the years to come, which will be
exactly.
lovely. Ola, Selby, thank you so much for your time here this afternoon. A pleasure as
Thank you.
always.
Thanks
Take care.
for having me.
So joining us on the podcast today, Zoltán Szendrei from Nemzeti Sport, journalist there and covering a lot of handball over the years and in Hungary at the moment, particularly with Szeged. Things certainly seem to be spicing up on and off the court just when it seemed like things were going in the right direction for Szeged, Zoltán. The news of Jim Gottfridsson's departure hit the news. Interesting to get your take on all of this. Maybe for those people listening who haven't heard too much about it yet or may have just heard, what can you tell us about Jim Gottfridsson's sudden departure from this Szeged club?
Yeah, hi Chris. First of all, thank you for having me. Yeah, and I would like to say it's a new situation for me to have a podcast in English, but of course I'm trying to do my best. Yeah, in Szeged, for me it's a very difficult and weird situation at the moment because things are just getting maybe on the good way, because of course knock out Kielce as an underdog. Yeah, on the other hand, there is this Jim Gottfridsson situation, which is, I've got to say, maybe we don't know the concrete reason why Szeged decided to say goodbye to Jim, but yeah, maybe in the season, Jim didn't show his best performance, didn't play so much time. It can be an injury, but Szeged communications are not very good on this topic. So yeah, this is, and of course, it was a bad luck for him to Janusz Marason and Lazar Kukic has shown some very good skills and leadership since Szeged announced Gottfridsson. Maybe he was announced one season before.
Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, this is a good example why this transfer routine is so dangerous. And yeah, what are the risks to transfer somebody 1 or 2 years before?
Yeah, it's a very, very good point on that. It's something which it feels like in the handball world is still almost something that traditionally has happened over the years, but it's becoming clearer and clearer that with the way the game is moving on and also the money involved, that maybe you can't be doing this for much longer. That is something we talked about on the podcast recently as well in connection to the Simon Putlik transfer from Flensburg to Füchse Berlin and everything that's happened around there. But on Jim Gottfridsson himself, we had a statement from him in 4 different languages, so he was very clear about it. He gave a statement, feeling like this has really been almost like the rug has been pulled from underneath him. A shocking thing to have a contract basically cancelled like that, and I have a feeling that it will be something that drags on for quite a while. Also on the legal side of things between him and the club. The club coming out then and saying that they felt that everything has been done above board and legally. That whether that's true or not is another question. But in and around those games against Kielce, as you said, they just had a fantastic result, beating them in the playoff to qualify for the quarterfinals after what has been a very difficult season for them overall. And even then, with him not being in the squad, it didn't seem really clear why. It was something we discussed as well ourselves, wondering why he wasn't with the team. If it was an injury, then why wasn't he traveling with the team? Because Sebastian Frimbel, for example, was injured, but he was in Kielce with the players. Is that something that was also being discussed in Hungary in the last few weeks. People wondering, where is Jim?
Yeah, the fans are also don't know the reasons. So yeah, maybe I feel a little bit of disrespect from the club to the way to Gottfridsson and to the fans as well. We don't know why Szeged terminated this 3-year contract. Maybe this is in the first season and in the middle of the most important part of the season. In my opinion, I deserve the truth as a journalist, but maybe the huge amount of Szeged fans deserve the truth. And it's a weird situation because in the last group match against the Plock, I don't know if you saw that game, Gottfridsson showed a very good performance. He played around 20-25 minutes, if I remember as well. And he had some Gottfridsson magic assists, like we saw in the Swedish national team and in Flensburg when he was at his prime. So despite this, he wasn't in the squad against Kielce. So
you were at the game on Monday, where the top of the table clash in the Hungarian league, where Szeged were playing away against Veszprém. What was the chat and the discussion like amongst your fellow journalists about this? Because this must have been almost bigger news than the game itself.
Yeah. Szeged showed something maybe not new, but this is we can say that was new. They played 7 against 6, almost in the whole match. In the first half, they played 7 against 6. Yeah, and it performed very well. They have a 3-goal lead, but after maybe in the second half, they made a lot of mistake. Like Bánhidi Bence said to me after the game, Veszprém turned the game because of Szeged's too many mistakes, and Veszprém also have a level up at the performance. Backcourt players like Ahmed Hesham, Ivan Martinovic, and Yahia Eldera, they were very good in the second half. So it can be an interesting game on Saturday. They will play against each other again in the Hungarian Cup as well.
Yeah, an impressive performance from Veszprém. They're turning that around. As you said, Szeged having the lead in the first half, and maybe the final scoreline 34 or 30-24 is maybe, it doesn't feel 100% reflective. A lot of empty net goals at the end because of that 7-on-6, right, for Veszprém against Szeged. But after the game, as you spoke to some players, was that any discussion about Gottfridsson? Was anyone willing to say anything, or was it a case of no, this is not my topic?
I feel it's a top secret topic at the moment, unfortunately. I have a good connection with some of Szeged players, but teamwork is more important than the press. And I feel very respected about it.
Yeah, it's that's fair. You can't push too much, but must have a big impact on the players, and you have to wonder as well, particularly with Mikael Appelgren as the head coach, a man who I guess had a big part to play in bringing Jim Gottfridsson to the club. Also has been his national team head coach over the last year or so. It's a difficult relationship, you'd imagine, in terms of trying to manage that, also because with Jim Gottfridsson and his level, even though he said recently in the game against Płock, he showed that there's some of that old magic there, but overall the way the sport is going and the speed of it doesn't seem to be matching his style of play. That must also be quite strange.
Mihály Appelgren was one of the main reasons to Jim Gottfridsson arrive in Szeged in the summer. To be honest, we can say that Jim Gottfridsson in 2026 or 2025 is not the same player like in 2022. I can say with all of the respect for him. Yeah.
I think we can agree there. On Szeged as a whole, they put together 2 really good performances against Kielce. I think one of the big surprises of the round, considering They finished down in sixth place in their group. They have had, a few moments over the season where you wonder, okay, is this team starting to come together? And then, we considered last week that, finally this team makes sense in terms of the way it's been set up. The combination of Kukic and Smárason together with the big boys in the team. Roland Mickler having another spring in his career at the age of 41. Really exciting times in terms of the Champions League for them. How impressed have you been with their sudden increase in performance?
Let me say, in the beginning of the season, I made a power ranking in the Champions League, and I put Szeged in very high in the fourth place. Yeah, and that was because they were very good shape in the last season. Like they beat Magdeburg first in Mihály Pellegrin, the first Champions League game, and after they knock out PSG, 10-goal win in Paris, and after maybe 2 or 3 minutes in Barcelona, they have a real chance to make it to the Final Four against Barcelona, which is a huge deal. And for that package, this is why I thought if Jim Gottfridsson does works out, Szeged can make one of the last final steps to finally reach the Final Four. But things are not went to the same direction in the beginning of this season, and it's not just the Gottfridsson situation in the group phase, but the lot of injuries that Szeged have. Like if you ask me in February to have any success at the knockout phase for Szeged, I say 100% no, because of, if we say the starting lineup, Mario Sostaric, Bence Bánhidi, János Smárason, and of course, Magnus Röd, who was out about 4 months. And after that, the Kielce game was totally different for that. Maybe the motivation and because of the injuries, they wasn't very tired. And that can be a luck in all bad things.
We've seen that in recent seasons with Magdeburg, interestingly enough, who they're going to play in the quarterfinal. A team who have managed those situations very well and hit the peak at the right time. And it feels a little bit almost like a similar style to Magdeburg as well, though, with Kukic and Smárason in there side by side. Really, a small ball, great combination, a different version of Kristjansson and Klar, perhaps, in there, which is interesting to see develop. 2 Hungarian teams up against 2 German teams in the quarterfinal. 2 massive challenges as well. But do you give the 2 Hungarian teams a chance, or what kind of chance are you giving them to reach Cologne?
Like what we saw from them in the playoff round, they can have a minimal chance. But in my opinion, if both West Brom and Szeged knock out Magdeburg and Füchse Berlin, that would be the biggest surprise of the last decade, because of the best 2 teams at the world are Magdeburg and Füchse Berlin. The best players of the world are playing on that 2 teams, not in West Brom and Szeged at the moment, in my opinion.
On Veszprém, then they were also in the news over the international break about the let's say the not so thinly veiled threat that came from the club president, Dr. Chaba, saying that if performances don't reach the level expected, or if the team did not reach the expected goals, that there will be direct consequences for that. The players seem to have responded well to that. It's fair to say.
Yeah.
Has there been any more discussion on that?
I have an interesting chat with Ahmed Hesham on Monday, and of course, I asked what changed since the group phase, and he said a very interesting fact that they have time to organize programs outside of the court, and this is also what's shown what a season is. Maybe if you play 2 or 3 games in the week, it can affect to the team performance as well. And there were 9, I think, 9 new players in Veszprém arrived in summer. So yeah, Javi Pascual needed a time to get the pieces online and yeah.
Okay, so by organizing programs, you mean the players spending time together off the court, kind of team bonding or getting to know each other. Okay.
Yes, and Veszprém players are coming. France, Egypt, Serbia, so many different handball culture, not just handball culture, just basic culture differences.
Yeah, interesting. That's he has been fantastic, Ahmed Hisham. Really exciting to see. It seems like when he's really on form, that is very, very difficult to stop, even for a team like Berlin. And looking at both Berlin and Magdeburg in recent times, both fantastic clubs, as you said, with some of the best players in the world, but neither are completely unstoppable, you have to say. And that feels like with Hungarian handball, you always just need a chance, right? And that's what these two teams will be holding on to, that they have some kind of chance to at least put the German teams under pressure.
Veszprém and Szeged need a 2 or 3 goals advantage after their home matches to make it uncomfortable to Magdeburg and Füchse to the second game. I think if Magdeburg and Füchse win in Hungary, there is no chance to turn the duel back.
We will see the knockout games coming up soon. And I guess from the Hungarian point of view, good that both teams are in there. Thanks for your insight into what is a very cloudy situation with Jim Gottfridsson as well. It'll be interesting to see how that develops as well over the next few weeks. I guess we'll have a bit more truth coming as well. Zoltan, thank you so much for your time.
We hope so. Thank you so much, Chris.
Right.
Have a good one.
Well, thank you to Zoltan and to Ola for one of the big takeaways, although we have some interpretations of what has happened from the journalist, complete silence when it comes from the club and Mikael Appelgren. I feel like that won't be the case for too much longer. Eventually, some of this news and the details are going to come out, so we'll keep an ear out for that. Thank you all for listening. Hope you have a great weekend. Big matches on the way, as I said earlier, both in the German Cup Final 4 this weekend, the Women's Champions League quarterfinals as well, which we will look back on next week. So have a great weekend and catch you again soon. Goodbye.